very common, and when I was looking on how to do it myself, there wasn't a lot of information available, so just going to take you through how I did it. Hopefully it's helpful to you. Thanks. Hey everybody, recently did a tall wall build. Just going to make a video on how I made those tall walls using calculator, Construction Master Pro calculator, to figure out the top plate adjustments, the king stud lengths, top plate lengths, and even how to square up from corner to corner. So I'll go through these drawings. I'll go through exactly some pretty awesome tricks on how to use this to figure everything out and get everything perfect and have everything plane out. I tried to make a video on site, but it was super windy, so here we are at the kitchen table. So hope this is helpful to somebody. All right, so here's the first rake wall I made. How about that, eh? Again, this is all just using the Construction Master Pro for everything. There's even a trick so you can figure out your top plate, so that your top plate will terminate perfectly in the middle. That was with math. And here is an LVL rake wall that I built using the same principles. So these are the drawings they give you. Hold this up close so you can see. So they give you the wall length and the wall height on both sides, the short height, the long height, the pitch, and they do give you the top plate length, as you can see right here. Okay, so those are for the longer tall walls. This is a sketch I'll show you in a bit. These are LVL tall walls. This is just a normal wall, but this one is a rake wall. Same thing, gives you pitch, but also shows you the studs. And it also shows you how so we got a 10-foot wall, the bottom, floor system, subfloor, and the tall walls. So I'm going to show you how to use these drawings to lay some things out and help explain. But these are the drawings you get if you haven't seen them before. This is what you'll get with your truss package if you have tall walls in your buildings and a single pitch trusses. So an important thing to remember when you're doing tall walls is to remember that the height of your top plates, so there's a double top plate there, might not be 3 inches, 2 times 1.5 inches, because of the pitch. Okay, so let me show you. I drew it here. So the thickness this way is 1.5 inches, but the thicknesses on your beveled cut is probably going to be more than 1.5 inches. Okay, so and to figure that out, to figure out that height, you would go 1.5 if it's 1.5 inch material, divided by cos times your pitch in degrees, and that will give you the actual height along that bevel, or you can just cut it and measure it. But if you want it exactly for math, that's how you would figure it out. So it's important to know that, because when you're figuring these out, what I do is I ignore the top plates when I'm figuring out my stud length. So this gives you a total height, so you need to adjust for the vertical height, right, which is not the thickness of the material, that is the vertical height along those bevels. So you need to subtract 2 times that height, and then also subtract 1.5 inch off the bottom plate, which is going to be flat. So that's important to remember. So for 2.5 pitch, I'm losing approximately 1/16 of an inch of, my bevel cut, that vertical distance on my bevel is actually 3 inch and 1/16 on a 2.5 12 pitch. All right, so first of all, you got to figure out your rake wall. So to figure out all the studs. So the Construction Master Pro will definitely help you with that. So you need your base, so that is the very starting point, the first stud. You can either use the long length or the short length, whichever one will work, but you just have to remember that this is either your sharp or your short. So I use short, it's just easier to cut with my saw, with the saw I use, but you can use sharp or short. You just have to remember and make sure consistent on which way you cut it. So you need your base value, your pitch value, and after that everything will be given to you by the calculator. So we're going to go 2.5 inch pitch. Okay, this is a 34-foot wall, so we're going to go 34-foot run. Now we're going to enter our base. So 101 inches and 1/8. Okay, and that is our base. So you go convert, rake wall, so it shows base there now. Okay, now you just hit the same rake wall button, which is the rise button. Okay, so it gives you 16 inch on center. Okay, and so our first one is going to be 8'8" and 7/8. It says rake RW1, 8'8" and 7/16. And then every time you hit it, it'll give you your next stud. So rake wall 2, 3, so on. And basically you just write down the entire list, the entire cut list, and then you can go ahead and cut them and it will work out just perfect. All right, let's use this wall as an example. Okay, so you can see 11 inches, 6.5 is the bottom length. Okay, so how did they get this top plate length? All right, so let's get our calculator going here. So we go 11 foot 6 inch, half inch, and that will be our run. 2.5 inch pitch. Okay, now we hit diagonal. 11 foot 9.5, and if you look on the top there, 11 foot 9.5. So this is useful if you want to. So I can do that on one board. Obviously, I can just use 12-footer, no problem. But let's say you're building this one here, okay, and you want to break your top plate at 12 feet, right in the middle of your 12 feet. So then to figure that out, okay, you would go 12 foot run, 2.5 inch pitch. Okay, your diagonal is 12 foot 3 and 1/16. So you would cut your top plate from short to long at 12 foot 3 and 1/16, and it will die right in the middle of your, at 12 feet. It will match up perfectly. You just have to make sure that you measure if that stud, let's say this is 12 feet, okay, you would measure perfectly 12 feet here to the middle of your stud, and if you cut one at 12 foot 3 and 1/16, you will land right in the middle of that top plate. So I've got a video of that. I'll post that in right now. So 151 inches, 7/8. That will be our run. 2.5 pitch, which gives us a diagonal 155 and 1/8. For this, we're going to cut proper location for a bow. Stud has a bit of a bow in it, but that's exactly where it will be. See, back right there, 64 inches. Stud over. Hold it right on 64. You can see it goes right in the middle. That's good. All right, let's say that I got a king stud. I want to measure out this king stud right here, and I want to know exactly what it should be. And let's say the drawings are calling for this. Let's say for this dimension, let's just say, I'm going to eyeball it here, but let's call that 18 feet. Sure, 18 feet. Okay, so if we want to know exactly what this, how tall to make this king stud right here, okay, we're going to measure, and let's say that the short side is 18 feet. Okay, so the right hand edge, the short side, is 18 feet from this right hand short side. Okay, we're going to use our base length. So remember that this might not be your base height. We're going to use the actual stud length. Okay, so for here, this is our wall height, right? Our finished wall height. It's not focusing for me, but it says 8'8" and 7/16. So let's say that the actual wall height, or the stud height rather, would be, let's just say 8'6", just for an easy number. Okay, so we would go 8'6". Okay, so that's going to be our base. We'll just remember that for now. Okay, so important part here, 18-foot run, 2.5-inch pitch. Okay, and then hit rise. So that gives us, so basically over that 18 feet, this stud height is increased by 3'9". Okay, so I add that to my base height of 8'6", I think we said. Okay, so that will give you 12'3". So you would cut this king stud at 12'3" on the short side, and it will land, and that will be the perfect height to plane out to your top plate. But remember, use the base height of that stud, and just write that base height down, and that is your constant. That's your 0. And every rise that you add, you're always adding it to that same base height, whatever that first stud short edge is. And you can use that for whatever. You can use that for your king studs. You can use it for if you've got an irregular layout. It works out just perfect. All right, so building these rake walls, you also have to, so you need to figure out your kings, and they might not be on a center. So to figure out them, basically you figure out your run. So how far you are away from your base. That can give you your rise. Off your rise, you add your base, which gives you your height of that king. So let me show you. So we'll go 217 inches and 3/8 run, 2.5-inch pitch. Now your rise here, 45 and 5/16. So you'll add that to your 99 and 5/8 plus 99-inch 5/8. And that gives you 144 and 15/16. And that is how you can accurately figure out all your king studs so that everything planes out properly. And basically for my run, I'm measuring from my 0 all the way over there to here, and that's my run value. And obviously my pitch is whatever the rake wall pitch is. And as you can see, everything just planes out properly. Okay, so let's say you got this tall well built, it's looking good, but you want to square it up. You want to make sure that you want to check how square it is. So you can do that too. So okay, so this wall here, focus. Okay, 22 foot 5.5 by 13 foot 4 and 9/16. Okay, so if I want to check from here to here, I'll use those two distances. Okay, so 22 foot 5 inch 1/2. We'll call it our length. 13 foot 4 inch 9/16. We'll call it our width. Hit the width button again. Gives you area. Don't ignore that. So our square up 26 foot 1 and 11/16 will get you, so that dimension, that square of dimension will give you from this point to this point, because I use this dimension and this dimension. If I want to get this square up, I would use this dimension and this dimension to get this diagonal. Okay, now remember, if you're squaring up and you only have a single top plate, then you need to measure the exact height and the exact width, and that will give you your square up.